Racket Squad.
This case, and I call it the sure thing, started when I got a call from Homicide saying they were sending up a man whose story I should hear. Hello, sucker. Come in, Mr. Crowley, come in.
Look, Captain, I've killed a man, and I couldn't live with it on my conscience, so I came in of my own free will and confessed. Now, why don't they put me in jail and leave me alone? Why do I have to come here?
Because they want your story, Mr. Crowley. I wasn't just being smart before when I used the word sucker. You were the victim of a confidence mob.
I don't know what you mean.
You really don't know, do you? Looks like I better help you out. 10 to 1, it started someplace where people gather. A hotel lobby, a train, maybe a resort of some kind.
It was a train. I was on my way to New York, and I was going to close a business deal, and this young lady came in and sat down in the club car beside me, and...
I beg your pardon. Would you mind if I looked at your magazine?
Oh, no, certainly not.
There's an article I'd like to read about some new developments in surgery used in veterans' hospitals.
Yes, I read it. It's interesting, but a little grim. Are you a nurse?
Not exactly. My husband was a patient for a very long time, until the Army doctor sent him home.
Oh, there's no hope at all?
We like to think there is, but it happened so long ago, on Bataan. Bob hasn't walked since that day.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry.
He's been home for 3 years now. So many treatments, operations. We tried just about everything. I'm on my way to New York now to see another specialist, a man my Uncle David heard about.
Well, I certainly hope he can help you.
I don't know. I've never been to New York before. Is it really as frightening as they say?
Oh, it's worse. Much worse. Give me Harrisburg anytime. I've lived there all my life.
Well, I guess it's a good thing my Uncle David is meeting me at the train. He's the sweetest man in the whole world. He's been so nice to bother me through all our trouble, and I don't know how we'll ever repay him.
Well, rich uncle, who's generous, that's its own reward.
Oh, he's not rich. He's just a working man. He manages the central office of Postal Union Telegraph on 9th Avenue. But he's certainly not rich. That's what makes him so wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind if I take this magazine back to my sleeping car? I want to read that article carefully.
Well, not at all. You go right ahead. Finished it, and you might find something encouraging. I hope you do.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, you were a perfect gentleman, Mr. Crowley, and she a perfect lady. In spite of the tragedy in her life, so friendly toward a stranger. You'd never suspect in a million years that she knew all there was to know about you before you left Harrisburg. Or for that matter, that she had no husband. At least not the one she'd been telling you about.
Oh, hello, Miss Miller.
Oh, hello, Mr. Crowley.
How about that magazine article? Did you find anything interesting?
Oh, yes.
What's the trouble? Are you looking for someone?
Yes, my Uncle David.
Oh, sure.
He promised to be right on time.
Well, now, if you don't think you have to wait around here for him, I'd be glad to drop you at your hotel in my cab.
Oh, thank you so much,
It's
but...
all right.
Well, I don't even know where Uncle David made reservations. I think I better call him at the office.
Well, certainly. Here, I'll take your bags.
Why don't we leave them right here? That is, if you don't mind waiting. I won't be but a minute.
No, it's quite all right. I'll watch him. There's a booth right over there.
Thanks.
Oh, Porter.
Yes, sir.
Would you take this one and that one right there?
All right, sir.
I'll be with you in a minute.
Dave? Helen. I've got a businessman from Harrisburg. Can we play for him in a half hour?
A half hour? I told you never to rush me like that, baby. Well, okay. Let me take a look. Yes, I can make it, but we'll have to waltz him through in a hurry. The Duke's bringing in one at 11. Oh, by the way, I got some dough for you. Yeah, we landed Marsden. He was one of yours, wasn't he?
Yes. Oh, he's the helpful Henry type. Just lead him on and he'll shove his dough at you. Oh, the sick husband spiel with the wounded veteran switch. He was perfect for it. I'd say he was good for 25 grand, or I don't know a mark when I see one. Okay, Dave. In a half hour. Yeah? Yes? I've got to get back to him now. Bye. I knew there was something wrong. David couldn't get away from the office. There was so much work.
Well, the offer's still good. I'll take you any place you say.
Well, David wants me to come to the office. Would you mind, really? It wouldn't be out of your way?
Not at all. Bring those other two, will you?
Yes, sir.
Well, here she is, safe and sound.
Really nice of you to bring Helen up, Mr. Crowley. I'm very grateful.
Don't mention it. I've heard some nice things about you, Mr. Sutton.
Fine, fine. Now, let's be comfortable.
Thank you.
I'm afraid I let my favorite niece down this morning, but it couldn't be helped. Had to let my assistant go unexpectedly.
You mean Charlie Woods? The man you wrote was so capable?
Shame, but I caught him red-handed.
Oh. Well, I know exactly how you feel. I had the same thing happen to me. I had a fellow working for me once, good man, but he just couldn't keep his fingers out of that cash box.
It wasn't stealing.
You're being so mysterious, David.
Well, it's just that I wouldn't like this thing to get around.
Now we are curious. Aren't we, Mr. Crowley?
Oh, yes.
You ever see a woman that couldn't worm the truth out of a man? Very well, my dear, if you insist. The racing results for all of the bookmakers in the city pass through this office. Charlie Woods figured out a way to place a bet on a sure thing.
Well, that's the way to bet, I always say. But how did he do it?
Well, you see, this office wires the results to a small but very exclusive betting establishment near here called the Saddle Club. Well, when the results from the 6th at Hialeah came in yesterday, Charlie didn't wire this place immediately, as he was supposed to do. Instead, he phoned a Confederate who was waiting in a booth next door to the Saddle Club and gave him the name of the winner. The man rushed over and placed a bet. Then Charlie sent through the results. And, of course, they split the winnings.
How do you like that?
Now, let me understand this. Charlie Woods bet on a horse after the horse won the race, but before the bookmaker knew it.
Precisely.
And, of course, Charlie Woods could have kept right on doing the same thing. I mean, if you hadn't caught him.
Well, yes, I suppose so. Oh, would you excuse me?
Sure, sure.
So many details now that Charlie Woods isn't here.
I know. You go right ahead.
It paid off being nice to Helen Miller, didn't it, Mr. Crowley? Look what you've fallen into. A chance to make some easy money. You'll cut them in, of course. They're such nice people. So nice, they didn't even see the possibilities. But you'll point them out, won't you, Mr. Crowley? At the proper time and place.
Hey, I have an idea. Why don't we have dinner tonight, just the three of us?
Well, if we wouldn't be imposing.
Imposing? Of course not. It'll be a pleasure, I assure you.
Well,
And I may have a surprise for you, but I can tell you about that after dinner.
Sounds mighty tempting. What do you say, Helen?
Fine.
Then it's a date. How about my place at 7? I'm at the Carmack Hotel.
Fine.
Won't you tell us what the surprise is, Mr. Crowley?
Oh, all right. After dinner, the best show in town, and I'm taking you.
You've been so nice. We're taking you, Mr. Crowley.
Yes, of course.
Goodbye.
Here, let me.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, the central office of Postal Union Telegraph. You had no way of knowing the whole thing was a fake. Set up just for suckers like you, did you, Mr. Crowley? Well, after giving them a swell feed, you sprung your idea for making a little easy money. Uncle Davy didn't go for it, and you had to sell him.
No, it's simply out of the question, Morgan. I can't afford to risk losing my job. Helen and Robert depend on me, you know that.
I don't see where there's any risk involved at all, David. Certainly not to your company. Just a few dollars less for a bookmaker. They can afford it, I assure you.
Well, speaking for myself and Bob, we could use some extra money.
Helen, haven't I managed to give you everything you need?
Oh, Uncle David, I didn't mean that, but with all the money we owe you and this new doctor, well, I just thought that if we could win $10,000 or $15,000...
Oh, no. Oh, certainly not. I didn't mean that we'd go into it like that. I had Well, for fun, you know. I thought that perhaps I'd invest $100 and then we'd split the proceeds. I don't want to bankrupt any bookmakers. They're businessmen too, in a way, you know. Live and let live.
Well, if you promise not to bet more than $100, it might be fun at that.
Well, then it's a deal.
I'm afraid you'd better go along with Mr. Crowley, my dear. I don't believe we can trust our friend once he gets a taste of easy money.
To Miller, Sutton, and Crowley, Incorporated. Oh, and now to show you I'm a man of my word, what show do you want to see?
Take 'em to a good one, Mr. Crowley, because the show they've got set up for you tomorrow will really be something.
The next morning, he and Helen were at the Saddle Club bright and early.
And coming down to the line of finish, it's Annandale winning it by 1.5 lengths.
This is it, Mr. Crowley. All for you, and many others like you. And every inch as phony as that telegraph office you saw the day before. But to you, it's real. So real that a little of the gambling fever begins to work its way into your blood. That's why Helen brought you here first, Mr. Crowley. It's much too early, but you're anxious to get started on this new adventure. You want to get over to that phone booth next door. Make sure you're there when David's call comes in.
Hello? Yeah, David. This is Morgan. Uh-huh. Yeah. All right, now let me repeat that. That was valedictory to win in the first at Pimlico. Good, I got it. Thanks, David. Valedictory.
Miss Bolo is third by a length. Every Hour is fourth by 2 lengths. And coming up between horses, Tippler. In the stretch, it's Alabar and Valedictory head and head. Miss Bolo by 1.5 lengths. Every Hour by 2 lengths. Tippler by a neck, and on the extreme outside, 4 keeps. Heading for the line of finish, it's Alabar and Valedictory, with Valedictory getting up and winning by a nose. Alabar is second, and Miss Bolo.
Well, it worked. Valedictory, sure enough. And at 2.5 to 1. Say, this is all right, isn't it, Mr. Crowley? But you get a funny feeling when you see the man ahead of you bet $10,000 on the next race. $10,000 on one horse. It's foolish, you tell yourself, indecent. Especially if you don't know you're going to collect. This is different. You're playing for the fun of it. And it's a grand and glorious feeling, this betting on a sure thing.
Are you the gentleman that made this small bet?
Well, I bet $50 on Valedictory, if you call that a small bet.
I don't care what horse you had. It's just that we'll have to ask you not to make any more small bets here. They make too much bookkeeping.
Well, how much does one have to bet here?
Well, there's actually no rule, but 1,000 is the customary lower limit.
I resent that. He all but called you cheap, Mr. Crowley.
Who does he think he is? All right. Next race, we'll bet all we got. It isn't quite 1,000, but he'll take it and like it.
Your fever is up now, Mr. Crowley. You've got another horse from David. Swing along at 6 to 1. And you wish the line would move faster. There isn't much time.
There they go. Swing Along is out front. Chuck-a-Luck is second. Reliance is third. Desire Me is fourth. And Blivet. Turning into the stretch, it's Swing Along by 2 lengths. Chuck-a-Luck is second by 1.5 lengths. Desire Me is third by 0.5 length. Reliance is fourth by a head. Then coming up fast, Blivet. And going into the line of finish, it's Swing Along, pounding in to win by 3 lengths. Desire Me is second, and Blivet.
Tough break. But it's all part of the game, Mr. Crowley. Only not in the way you think. This is one of their more clever pieces of applied psychology. The shutout, they call it. Starting the race just before you can get your money down. Absolutely guaranteed to bring your betting fever to the boiling point. And brother, how it works.
What a dirty way to run a business. It's because I don't bet enough money they slam that window in my face. They want big bets, huh? All right, I'll make them a big bet.
They deserve to be shown a lesson.
I'll show them. I've got a certified check here for $30,000 that I brought with me for a down payment on a business. We know this thing works. I'm going to bet all of this on the next race. I'll buy that business outright.
But, they don't accept checks, Mr. Crowley.
Possibly no checks. All right. There's a bank up the street. I'll let them hold my money in nice, crisp U.S. greenbacks. Just for 5 minutes. Come on.
$30,000. All the cash you could raise on your government bonds, your real estate, everything you could lay your hands on. Yes, you'll show 'em, Mr. Crowley. You'll show 'em.
Are they gonna bleed? I'll take them for every cent they're worth. Hello, David? Yeah, this is Morgan. Now listen, David, I've got $30,000. That's right, in cash. Never mind how it happened. You just give me the name of that horse and we'll all be millionaires. Huh? You say little shot in the 5th at Jamaica. You say to place it all on little shot in the 5th. Right. Thanks, David. He said to place it all on little shot in the 5th. Let's go.
Let's go.
Well, Mr. Crowley, they didn't shut the window in your face this time, did they? And betting 30,000, they can't exactly call you cheap either. Little shot at 8 to 1. All you have to do now is relax and listen.
There they go. It's Little Shot out in front. Abbey's Count is second. On the rail, Precise is third. Annandale on the outside is fourth. And Fair Effie. Turning into the stretch, it's Little Shot by a length. Annandale makes his move. He's second by a head. Abbey's Count is third by a length and a half. Precise is fourth by 3 lengths. And Fair Effie. In the stretch, it's Annandale and Little Shot fighting it out head and head. It's Annandale taking the lead. And coming down to the line of finish, it's Annandale winning it by half a length. Little Shot is second, and Abbey's Count.
We won. We won.
Annandale. I'm ruined.
Well, no, Little Shot was our horse, and he did come in second.
I bet on Little Shot to win. David said to place it all on Little Shot. That means to win.
Oh, dear. David must have meant second when he said the word place. He doesn't know a thing about racing. He must have made a mistake.
Mistake? He makes a mistake. Everything I've got is on this. He's got to make it up to me. I don't know, somehow he's got to make it up to me.
Mr. Crowley, I don't know what to say.
Wait till I get my hands on that uncle of yours. Just a minute. Where do you think you're going? Get in there. I've got something to say to you.
But, Morgan, I don't understand. What happened?
What happened? You ignorant, stupid.
Mr. Crowley,
You keep out of this. How can anybody live and be as stupid and ignorant as you are? You tell me to place everything on Little Shot when you mean Little Shot to place.
But, Morgan, it's an understandable error.
Understandable. When everything I have, $30,000 is gone. But you'll pay me back every cent of it. You'll pay me back every cent
Step out of
of
the way, mister.
Charlie. Charlie, what do you want?
I'll refresh your memory. I started playing a little game up here, and when you found out what it was, you fired me. So you could play it yourself with these two.
Charlie, you're crazy.
Then you spread word around town that you let me go because I was a crook. So I couldn't get a job any place in town. So I'd have to go somewhere far, where I wouldn't be in your way.
Charlie, listen to me. You can have your job
Keep
back.
it. With love from me and my family. Now turn around and walk to that wall.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to kill you. Now move.
Mr. Crowley!
He's dead.
Dead?
Mr. Crowley, you killed him. What are you going to do?
Why, I didn't mean to kill him. David, you got to help me.
What can I do?
Well, I saved your life.
Yes, I guess you did. All right, Morgan. Get out. Get out of New York. Fast. Helen and I will think up a story for the police.
All right.
Mr. Crowley was sure he had murdered a man. But Uncle David had plans of his own.
Well, where are we going to celebrate tonight, baby?
The best places Mr. Crowley's money can buy. You know, I'm kind of sorry for him.
Hmm?
Nice guy.
I couldn't stand it anymore. Hiding, running away. And I had to confess. I didn't mean to kill him. I swear I didn't.
You didn't kill him, Mr. Crowley.
You mean he recovered?
He wasn't even sick.
But I shot him.
With a blank.
No, his shirt was all covered with...
Red ink. Just a rubber pocket inside the shirt. Cackle bladder, they call it. Maybe because in the old days they used chicken blood. Either way, it does a fine job of getting rid of a steamed-up sucker.
I can't believe Helen and David would do a thing like...
We've known about Uncle Dave and his gang for some time. But we've never made an arrest because their victims have always been too ashamed to come in and admit they were fleeced. But it'll be different now.
Yeah, I'll be glad to testify for you. I think it's only a fair exchange for the lesson you've taught me.
Thanks, Mr. Crowley. Get me Martin. Well, we arrested Dave Sutton, Helen Miller, and the rest of their gang. They wound up with another sure thing. Nice, long terms in the penitentiary. But that doesn't mean the end of all of the confidence games or the people who play them. And you don't have to be a businessman like Morgan Crowley to be one of their victims. Because, well, let's face it. We're all patsies for a chance at some easy money. Remember that. And remember, it could happen to you.
Hey, are you sick? Yes. Come into my office. Say, have you got a doctor or do you want me to send for mine?
No, it isn't that. It's the beige convertible.
Murdoch was being so helpful and friendly. And you had to tell him what you'd done. And in the telling, you spared none of the details. You'd been a sucker. And what was even worse, you'd made one out of Murdoch in his absence. His anger was easy to face compared to the threats he heaped on you.
Wait till I get through with you. I'll get the city jail.
You'll see it all next week when Philip Morris presents the case of the slightly used car. Another thrilling story from the files of Racket Squad.